Oh, we got a dog.
Oh, hold on.
Sasha did lay down and every time Sasha lays in the middle of our tripod. Hey, it's Sue.
And Megan, the Spine Breakers. And today we are going to do a recommendation video and recommend some dystopian books.
Yeah, because I mean, we're already living in a dystopian nightmare.
So would that make
why
these
not?
Current event novels?
Yeah, these might be current events soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
So
Yeah.
we figured we would go there and recommend some books that are going to make you hyperventilate a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're avoiding the ones that everyone already knows, the classics like Fahrenheit 451,
The Handmaid's Tale.
The Handmaid's Tale, 1984, Brave New World. Like those are all classics that I'm sure you all have either already read or at least heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to mention any of those. However, go read those if you haven't.
They're good. Read them. There's a reason why they're classics.
And we're going to drink this beer that we felt had a fitting name. I almost said a shitting name. A shitting name. It's called Batshit Crazy.
And here's what it looks like.
And it's from MobCraft beer. And it is a coffee brown ale. So, and this is from Milwaukee. This is another one that Sam brought us. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Let's try it. That's really good. When I looked this brewery up, when I was because I always put what beer we're drinking in the description. The last one we drank, which was the vanilla wafer porter, which was really fucking
delicious.
Good. I saw that they post the recipes for their beer on their website, and also their beer is people submit recipes and then they vote on which one.
That's cool as hell.
They're gonna make. So
that's fucking boss.
And it's working well for them, I think, because this is really good.
This is also very tasty.
And vanilla wafer porter was delicious.
So good. Yeah, no, these are really great beers.
So we have about 5 each?
Yep, we got about 10.
Yeah, 10 total to recommend to you.
Dystopian novellas.
So I will start with A Planet for Rent by Yoss. And this is set in a future where aliens, these very powerful and wealthy aliens, have invaded Earth and taken over, and humans are pretty much treated like dirt. We're the lowest class in the universe, basically. And it's kind of more a collection of short stories than a actual novel. But it's also an allegory for communist rule in Cuba, because the author, Yoss, is Cuban.
That's cool.
I liked it. Like I said, I was kind of going into it expecting a novel, and so I was a little what is this? Because I was expecting the first story to circle around and
carry
to
back
be connected in some way. And other than being set in the same universe, they're not really connected for the most part, but I really liked it. I thought it was really good.
The first I will talk about is one that Sue and I have both read. It is Parable of the Sower by Queen Octavia E. Butler.
Of course.
Of course. How could you not?
Right.
And this is the first book in a duology. The second book is Parable of the Talents. But this is the story of a young lady who, her father is a Baptist minister, and they live in kind of
Southern California, wasn't it?
I think so. And it's not necessarily post-apocalyptic really, but it's the U.S. is on the decline kind of, so it kind of is.
It's really feasible. We could end up here.
Yeah, it's I
feel
economic collapse has happened, and so there's tremendous poverty in the United States. People are kind of wandering and moving to try to, it's kind of like a Dust Bowl situation but more extreme.
Yeah.
And so this young lady, she is a teenager, I think, in the first novel, and then in the second one, she's an adult. But she starts her own religion based on the fact that, God is change. And so that's her whole premise. And she kind of sets out on her own to build a following.
And there's so much in this that is so similar to things that are happening right now. There's a presidential candidate that's definitely more extreme than Donald Trump, but there's similarities for sure.
And to include the phrase "Make America Great Again,"
right?
That's
which wasn't Donald Trump didn't invent
coin
that
the phrase, right?
But that's what he used as the main platform of his campaign, which I don't think any president before that had
made that their slogan.
Right. I don't think.
Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, right. But even I read I don't remember if it was this one or in Parable of the Talents, but there's like an interview with Octavia Butler in the back. And like the stuff she said was so very relevant to what is happening now in our country. And I'm sure this stuff started back in, because this was published in the 90s, I believe. Yeah. So I'm sure all this shit was already happening back then.
Right.
And it just is still happening, and it's getting worse
snowballing.
And worse. Yeah. Next on my list is one that we also both have read, but it's been a little while, and it's The Wanting Seed by Anthony Burgess. And this is one of his lesser known, I feel like the one everyone knows is A Clockwork Orange, obviously, which is a great book. But this one is set in this dystopian world where homosexuality is actually encouraged because the population has grown too large, and so it's encouraged to be homosexual so that you don't reproduce. But then, like, things go, like, this novel goes so many ways. It goes crazy because it starts out in a very different place than it ends.
True, it does.
But it was really interesting and really entertaining. For me, I think that I liked it about as equally as I liked A Clockwork Orange.
And I liked it a little better than I liked A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
Just because it was more accessible. Because like A Clockwork Orange has that weird made-up language in it, which you can totally like acclimate to, but it's weird.
Yeah. And this blurb says wildly and fantastically funny. I would say that this does, definitely have some humor.
Oh yeah.
In it. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's like lighthearted.
No.
But it's not as heavy as
A Clockwork Orange, I think. It's a little like sillier, if you could say that about it.
Because it gets kind of fucked up. Like there's cannibalism in here.
Yeah.
And some messed up stuff.
It's pretty fucked up, but
I really liked it, and I never really hear people talk about The Wanting Seed.
So next I was going to talk about Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Kazuo Ishiguro, I think. I'm never going to say that correctly. I try, but I just... This is about a society. I don't want to spoil it, and I feel like if I say what it's actually about, it will spoil it.
Yeah.
It's about this group of people, I guess, that are trying to figure out why they exist.
Okay.
And what they find out is shocking to them.
Okay.
That's really vague.
Yeah.
But this book kind of fucked me up a little bit. But yeah, so I definitely had a big book hangover from this one, and it kind of got me right in my feels, and I really loved it.
Yeah, that was my March TBR jar pick, and I still haven't read it, but I really want to read it, but I just kind of like went through this rough mental health time where I was like, I don't think I can handle this right now. So I haven't read it yet, but it's on my immediate TBR.
Immediate turbo.
Yeah. So the next one I have is one that I really liked, but Megan didn't like it as much as I did.
It is not.
No. But it is The Queue by Basma, Abdel, Aziz, and this is translated from the Arabic by Elizabeth Jacquet. I could totally understand why someone would not enjoy this because characters are not super well developed. They're kind of archetypes of just typical people and how they would respond to what's happening.
Right.
But it's set in like a fictional Middle Eastern city, or an unnamed, it says, Middle Eastern city, where the government is becoming more and more oppressive. And people have to get anything done, really, they have to have approval from the government, and they have to wait in this big-ass line. But the line never moves. Right. They're waiting for this gate to open. The gate never opens. But I just found it really interesting, and it's a little absurd. It's kind of absurdist because like one of the characters is trying to get approval to get a bullet removed from his body.
And he's actively dying.
Yeah, so he's like slowly dying throughout the novel, and so it's like kind of it's sad but also kind of silly.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, at the same time. But I don't know, I just found it really interesting to see how these different characters, what they did in response to what was happening in their country, because, some of them kind of tried to fight against it, some of them used it to their advantage, Some of them were kind of complacent, and so, yeah, I just found it like an interesting kind of...
I can see that.
It's like kind of a character study, but yet the characters are not
Developed.
super developed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also, just, I found the author's bio so interesting that I was
sounds
like
a fucking
I would
badass.
read her biography.
Yeah.
Because it says she's an Egyptian journalist and psychiatrist who treats torture victims at Cairo's Nadim Center, continuing her work even after the center was raided and closed by Egyptian authorities in February 2016. She has long been a vocal critic of government oppression in Egypt and has published several works of nonfiction, and earned the nickname The Rebel for her outspoken struggle against injustice, torture, and corruption. Like, she sounds like a fucking badass.
She does. She sounds like a straight up badass. He's so sweet.
You're the sweetest boy in all the land.
Oh, Delina. He's so sweet. I would vote for Murphy for president.
Me too, in a heartbeat.
Because all he wants is like belly rubs, snuggles, T-words, snake moose. So next I was going to talk about The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. So again, the United States is plunged into bankruptcy and economic collapse. Sounds legit. They move into this gated community, which seems to be like a solution to everything. So they get a house, they get a job, they alternate jobs, but on alternating months, the people who live in the houses have to go live in this prison and work in the prison. And then on the next month, they get to go live in the house. And so they share a house with another couple, and they just switch off. So they start to see kind of behind the veil, if you will, of this community and realize that perhaps it's not everything that it's cracked up to be. Is this the best Margaret Atwood novel? No. Is it an entertaining dystopian novel? Definitely. So I don't think it holds up to some of her other work, but I do think it's good. And I think it's very entertaining and it's funny, and if you dig dystopian novels, then you'll probably dig this.
Alright, next I have another one that both of us have read. I feel like you're a little bit more well-versed in dystopian novels than I am.
I just find a wheelhouse and just fucking...
You do. I'm very much more eclectic, where I read all over the place. But you kind of like find something you like and then you stick with it for a long time. And
I find my little niche, like
so
zombie
yours
novels,
is like
dystopian
yours is
novels.
like zombies and dystopians.
Yeah, that's
which zombie novels are kind of dystopian novels as well.
Yeah, I dig like just generally post-apocalyptic shit. So yeah.
Oh, that makes me remember that I was gonna grab Station 11 and I forgot to. But that's a good book too.
Yeah.
It's not on my list, but that's a good dystopian / post-apocalyptic. But I have Wool by Hugh Howey. So in this novel, something on Earth, like it's not inhabitable anymore.
Right.
And so people live in this giant underground silo, but it sort of seems like maybe things aren't as they seem. I don't know what else to say that wouldn't be spoilery, but like this was so good. This whole series, there's 3 books in this series.
Ugh.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved this series as a whole. It was really good.
So good. The characters
I don't know what
were
else to
awesome.
say.
Like I loved the plot.
Yeah.
Like it explained why the fuck, which I think is important.
Yeah,
because like I always want to know why the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so the trilogy explained. Like I don't know that this book so much did, but the trilogy itself explained.
Yeah, this book I feel like you're like, okay,
why the fuck?
Something's amiss.
Right.
And then the next book explains like how they got to where it's a prequel.
Yeah.
To this, and it explains how they got to this point.
Yeah.
And then the final book, the 3rd book, is the conclusion. Yeah. And it was just so good.
And we've mentioned before that we feel like the author does a really good job of writing female characters.
Yeah.
So next I wanted to talk about Unwind by Neil Shusterman. This is a book, I think our friend Sean gave this to us.
Yeah, I have it too. I haven't read it yet though.
It's actually a YA novel, which I'm a little iffy on YA novels, but this one was really good. There was a couple of things in it that were kind of tropey that I was like, meh. But the basic like premise was good. And also like there was a scene in this that was horrifying, like completely horrifying. But so this takes place after the Second World War in the United States, which is over reproductive rights. So they decide
Second Civil War?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another Civil War in this. And
Okay,
so,
you said Second World War. And I was
did
like,
I?
That already happened.
Oh. Second Civil War, shit.
Okay.
They decide after that Civil War that life from the moment of conception until 13 is inviolable, like you can't do anything with it. But from 13 and 18, parents can have their child unwound, which is where like all of the child's organs are transplanted into other donors, so life doesn't technically end. And they keep the person alive while they do this
Okay.
unwinding procedure.
So do you think this is like a pro-choice or a pro-life?
Definitely pro-life, because this
Really?
is or pro-choice. I mean,
Okay.
sorry, I'm all mixed up. Definitely pro-choice, because this is horrifying. Some religious families have children to be tithes, which is that they're born to be unwound because they are sacrificing them to God, basically.
Okay, so it's not like an extreme version of pro-choice? Or it is an extreme.
It's an extreme version of pro-life, I think. Cause like,
okay, really?
yeah, because like you can't have an abortion, you can't do anything with your kid until they're 13, and then if you decide at that point that they're like
Okay.
up in your shit, you can be like, I'm gonna have you unwound. You're too much for me, I don't like it. But yeah, I don't think it painted a good picture of the religious, because those are the ones who kind of pushed for this whole law that you could
Right.
do as you wanted to when they were 13. If I recall correctly. But yeah, I don't think that it painted a good picture of pro-life
Okay.
folks. But
So it's maybe kind of the argument of like, they're not pro-life, they're pro-birth.
yeah, it says, the Bill of Life states that human life may not be touched from the moment of conception until a child reaches the age of 13. However, between the ages of 13 and 18, a parent may choose to retroactively abort a child, on the condition that the child's life doesn't technically end. The process by which a child is both terminated and yet kept alive is called unwinding. Unwinding is now a common and accepted practice in society. So,
Interesting. I need to read that. I have like 3, the next book you're going to talk about is also on my immediate TBR. So I need to read all those, but also I'm like, ugh, they're going to be rough.
yeah, this one kind of fucked me up, and like I didn't take it as a pro-life kind of a thing. Maybe that's what it was intended to be, but like I certainly didn't interpret it that way.
Right. Well, the way you explained it, I could see how it's pro-choice.
But it's definitely fucked up.
Yeah. So my last one I want to talk about is Bitch Planet.
Oh, Bitch Planet.
By Kelly Sue DeConnick and Valentine Landro, or Valentine Landro, I'm never sure how to pronounce it. But this is a graphic novel, and women commit any sort of like indiscretion, they are sent to this women's prison on this planet called Bitch Planet. This is about the women in the prison kind of rising up against their oppressors, and
I've had enough of that shit.
yeah. And I have really liked this series so far. I think there's only 2 volumes out so far,
I think so.
and I really liked the first volume, but I loved
Same.
the second volume.
Same.
I thought the second volume was great, and I'm really excited for the third volume. But it's just really good, and I feel like in, our current political climate, this would be one that would kind of make you be like, fuck yeah.
Fucking right. Yeah, I think
You
so.
know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
I totally think so.
Yeah, kick fucking ass.
Hell yes.
Yeah, so I really liked that
I loved it.
series so far.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
So lastly, I was going to talk about Red Clocks by Leni Zumas. This is a dystopian novel wherein abortion is illegal in America, in vitro fertilization is banned, and the Personhood Amendment grants rights of life, liberty, and property to every embryo. So this kind of tells the story of 5 different women who are living in that version of the United States. It takes place in Oregon, and they're very different women who are experiencing this climate from very different ways. And this book was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. It was much stranger, I think, than I was anticipating. But it was like delightfully strange, and
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. And I could relate.
I've been hearing good things about it.
It's really good, and like I honestly I could relate a little bit Susan to each of these women. I really loved it.
Yeah. I've been like having the hankering to read that lately, but also it seems
It's a little too
a little too real at the moment. So I'm like, Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it, and I've had like not the best luck with all these like women-centric dystopian novels because I read The Handmaid's Tale. Wasn't a big fan. I thought it was okay. I read The Power. Also wasn't a big fan of that one. And I read what was the other one called? Future Home of the Living God. I read that by Louise Erdrich. I also wasn't a fan of that one. So I'm hoping Red Clocks is the one that really
gets for you. I hope it does.
We'll
like
see.
I felt it. Like I really enjoyed it.
So that's all our dystopian recommendations thus far.
We obviously plan to read more dystopian novels because we both dig the genre.
Yeah.
And life just kind of has been moving in that direction. So they're more and more relevant. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have any dystopian recommendations, we would love to hear them.
Yes. And this beer is really good.
I dig it.
Batshit crazy.
Batshit crazy.
Pretty tasty.
Pretty delicious.
It's a good balance of like coffee flavor and beer. Brown ale flavor.
It is, because it's not like
too overpowering either way.
Nope.
So yeah.
I could drink it and not want on it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Alright, so that's it for us.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.